it's been quite a while since I've made a video in the veggie garden, and the reason is pretty simple, and that's that I haven't been doing much in the veggie garden apart from harvesting. It's now autumn here in Tasmania, and our usual dry summer period is extended well into autumn. We're seeing the beginning of leaf colour change in a few of the plants and starting to look very nice from that perspective. Just the beginning yet. Mornings are a little bit cooler and evenings a little bit cooler. But with the extended dry that we've had, it really gives me no incentive to go and plant things in the garden, because it's really hard to establish seeds or seedlings when it's really dry. The ground's dry, and no matter how much you water, you just cannot really achieve that balance that you need. It takes a lot of work to get those things to get underway. So I've really backpedaled on it this year and just really forgotten most of my autumn gardening and focused on harvest. Now, we've been harvesting a lot of things. These tomatoes have produced heaps and heaps of tomatoes. We've got them bottled and sourced, and you've seen some videos about that. I've also been picking apples, and I'll probably bottle some of those a little bit later. They will keep for a little while in the cellar. And things like green beans and corn have been harvested and frozen. Today I'm in the garden not just to pick a few of these remaining tomatoes, and it's really sad, I must say, to see the tomatoes coming to an end out here, because you get so used to having your own fresh tomatoes, and it's really nice. But that time of the year is quickly drawing to a close. We might get a little bit of an extension in the greenhouse. I'll show you that in a moment. Two main jobs I've come into the garden to do today. One is to harvest some pumpkins, and the second is to prepare this ground here so that I can plant some garlic. The garlic won't go in today, but I'll do the preparation. But first I'll see what tomatoes I can get here. Now, this one is the Legend, and it was one of the first to produce, and it's also proving to be probably one of the last to produce as well. So that's really good to keep that production going across the season. These end ones though are pretty small, which is the case in most tomatoes. There's a few that I'll leave, and they'll ripen a little bit more yet. But even with these ones from the Legend, when you pick them, you need to give them a few days to, or even up to a week, to ripen. Now, the Tommy Toe, the cherry tomato here, is also one of the tomatoes that is extending quite long. I'll bring you in a little bit closer so that you can have a look. Now, you'll see a lot of colour here, and there's quite a few of these that can be eaten. The main reason there's lots here is that I haven't been picking these for a while. Had so many other tomatoes, these have been a little bit abandoned. Some of these have gone too far. They've cracked and, yeah, just past picking. So it looks like there's more than there actually is. These cherry tomatoes are really quite good for late season harvest. It actually makes me think that I should perhaps plant my cherry tomatoes later than all the other tomatoes and let them be the late tomatoes so that they come into play as the others actually finish. Might give that a go next year. Cracked, gone off. So there's quite a bit of waste here, really, simply because I've had too many tomatoes, not enough time to deal with them all. But now that the others are going, we will enjoy eating a few cherry tomatoes again. We had them early in the season and now later. So there's a nice little bowl of tomatoes that'll keep us eating some fresh ones for a little while. So while we're talking tomatoes, we'll just pop into the greenhouse here and have a look at the tomatoes that I planted earlier, the really early ones for greenhouse growing. Now, the first one I want to talk about here is the Legend. And you'll see that the vines are growing reasonably well. There is some white fly in here, which tends to be a problem in the greenhouse where there's less air movement. But what you'll also see is there has been new tomatoes set, and look, they won't ripen nearly as fast now that the season is getting cooler, but in here they still have a chance to ripen slowly and give us some late tomatoes. And so that's really nice to get that from the same plants that actually produced the early tomatoes, that they're still going. Also here, the sindel has revitalized itself a bit. It really does need a clean and a weed, but we've got tomatoes coming again that have set, quite a few on this plant. So with this sindel, there's probably almost as many tomatoes on it as we had early in the season. So that's really nice. Now, I did try growing calendula in here to try and reduce whitefly. At this stage, I have to say that's a failure. I don't know if you can see, there's actually whitefly on the calendula, and there continues to be whitefly around on the tomatoes. So, if you try things, they're not always a success. It may be better to use some of these things as sprays rather than just the companion planting. But it's worth a try. It appeared to have more success early in the season. Also, I tried it with aphids, and early in the season with aphids on the kale, it appeared to have success, but then later as this dry extends, the problem I think becomes such a major issue that it overwhelms these deterrents. Do you grow a kiwi berry? This vine has this small fruit. It's not easy to see. I'll pick one here. It's only a very small fruit that tastes like a kiwi fruit, and it's a relative of the kiwi fruit. Once it's ripe, you eat it whole, skin and all. So about the size of a grape, but just tastes like a kiwi fruit. The other flavour it reminds me of is a Monsterio fruit, if you've ever eaten that. But it's an easy to grow vine and sets lots and lots of fruit. The issue I have with it here is that we have European wasps, and they will come and attack them as they ripen. So it can be a bit of a challenge sometimes to get the fruit off unless you were to net it, but that's not something that I can do in this situation. Major problem I find with it is that the ripe fruit on this variety is the same colour, or well, very slightly darker than the unripe fruit. So you really have to feel the fruit, whether it's soft or not, in ripening season to know whether you're picking a ripe fruit or not. I'll see if I can find a bunch of fruit for you to have a look at. I don't know if you can see, it's a bit dark under here, but there's some fruit, and these softer ones are the ripe ones. Here's some more, maybe you can see this better. Here's one that's been attacked by the European wasps and ruined. This one's ripe, and the one next to it isn't ripe. These are really nice if you actually take the time to pick them and dry them. They dry like a sultana, but with a very strong, distinctive flavour. And of course in autumn you're going to get this lovely yellow colour as the leaves change as well. They are deciduous, so it is just going to be a bare vine over winter. Now, as I said, one of the things that I'm doing this morning is harvesting these pumpkins, or at least some of the pumpkins. Now, it's a bit difficult to see how many is here until the leaves start to die back like they have and you start to pick them, because there's quite a few that hide. And it's really quite a good crop. and I'm quite happy with the size that we've got here. This is a smaller one off this area, and a very nice pumpkin. These are sweet grey. I only grow the one variety, as I've said in previous videos. That way I can keep the seed and know that it's true. Now I'm picking the ones where the vine has died. No point them staying here any longer because they're not going to actually grow any further. They can mature in safety where things are not going to actually attack them. Now with this one, you'll notice this is still green on the stalk here, but the actual vine has died. So I'm picking because you'll notice this warty appearance on the bottom, and that's really a sign that there has been some attack from the organisms that are in the soil. So what exactly it is, I'm not sure, but I get a problem that if they sit on the soil for any length of time, the actual skin gets attacked quite considerably. This will be okay because it's healed over and they will keep. One of the mechanisms I do to reduce that is to place this straw underneath, and that lifts it off the ground. I get less problem on the straw than if it's directly on the ground. But what I'm considering next year, I was going to do it this year, just didn't get to it, but next year to try and remember, is to cut out some squares of the weed mat and put under to see if that inorganic layer will actually prevent this attack or reduce it at least. This one will keep okay, but sometimes we find them where the damage is so serious that it reduces the keeping ability of the pumpkin. But that's a good pumpkin. Now here's one which has some damage which hasn't healed over, and when it's like this, it is going to actually reduce the keeping life of the pumpkin. So this one will need to be used before others. But the majority are good. This has got a tiny bit of contact damage, but I think it will heal okay, and a really nice, good sized pumpkin. This one had a lot of impact, but mostly healed, so we hope it's going to be good. A little one hiding here, one of the smallest ones, and it looks like it's actually been chewed at by something. A mouse or a rat actually found it. Now in here, the pumpkin vine is still trying to put out some new pumpkins, but it's way too late for these to achieve anything. They could be eaten like a zucchini, basically, if you wanted to. I'm going to leave this one because the vine is still green. Here's another one where the vine is still green. Nice big pumpkin, but what I will do is to move it a little. Try and get underneath those drier straw under it, because this wet stuff is a problem. It's going to actually create some more of that decay. Over in this corner we've got a couple of big pumpkins. This one's still green, so I'm going to leave it a little bit longer. As also is this one, still green. A really big pumpkin here. Yeah, you can see slaters, slugs, things like this hiding under it, and I wonder whether they are the cause of the problem. So I will move this around. I'll try and just get some fresher straw. Oops. That's bad, I actually broke it off. That defeated my purpose. That's a shame, a little accident like that with a big pumpkin like this. It's such a massive pumpkin. When it's broken there, it's not going to keep nearly as well. But we'll see how it goes. Down in this corner, this one has a dead vine. And pretty good. Now, one here which has still got a green vine, so I'll leave it alone. It's really hooked around the post there. If I was to touch it and try and move it at all, I would break it like that other one. The vine's gone up here on the fence and pushed out a couple of pumpkins fairly recently. These might achieve some degree of maturity, but they're not going to be nearly as nice as the early set. So this is what I've got for today, and there's a good harvest of pumpkins there. So there's still about 4 big pumpkins in the patch that I can come back and harvest later. How many did we get here? There's 15 in the wheelbarrow, and I've taken one into the kitchen already, so 16, another 4, so 20 off this patch. I'm quite happy with that. It's enough pumpkins for us to last through the winter, spring, probably into summer. Anyway, I'll get those into the shed and then we'll come back to the other job. So I'm storing them up here on these nets in my woodshed, and I've stored pumpkins here now for the last couple of winters, and it's proved quite good. Keeps them warm, dry, cures them really nicely. The woodshed is generally vermin free, and I'm in and out regularly checking them, getting firewood so I can keep an eye on them across winter and take them into the kitchen as we need them. So the final job that I want to do this morning is to prepare this section here for planting garlic. Now, it's April and this is the month that I usually plant garlic. Sometimes I get it in really early. This year it's going to be a little bit later. Doesn't really matter as long as it goes in somewhere in April. Even May is going to be okay, but April is usually the chosen month that I do it. Because I took potatoes out of here at the end of summer, this has been vacant ground. What I have done is I've planted it with some wheat, and as you can see I have scythed it off probably a couple of weeks ago. It was very, very dry and growth had slowed right down. The ground was too dry to work, so I actually put the sprinkler on it overnight for 8 hours or so, and that's really soaked the ground. You can see the wheat's really shot away. Now, in order to come through with the rotary hoe little tiller and break it up, this is just going to be a tanglement. So what I'm going to do is run over it with the lawnmower first, try and get this down to a finer level, then I can till it up. I need to pull back the weed mat, which I have used in the tomatoes, and that's been really good this year, putting the weed mat in between the rows of tomatoes. It's really suppressed most of the weed growth and made maintenance in the tomatoes so much easier. Well, that's all rotary hoed up now. Now, the negative side of having the wheat in, and particularly having had it growing for so long, like 3 months, is that there's a lot of root. And that means I've had to go over it a couple of times to really break it up. The positive side of that means that there's a lot of organic matter going into the soil that's going to decay. Now, I'm not planting straight away. I'm going to leave this probably for around 2 weeks. And then I'll come back and sort this into a bed situation, and then I can plant garlic in it. But we'll come back for another video when I do that and look at what I'm also doing in terms of prepping some of the other garden for winter. We'll see what else is happening in a couple of weeks' time. I might be back with a video before then, but it's more likely to be then. So that's all for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope wherever you are that your autumn garden is doing a little bit better than mine in terms of the veggie garden anyway. Thanks for watching.